Welcome to the Ad Agenda, coming to you on archive.kpfk.org. I'm Rita Gonzales. Here is another segment of Radio QGLLU. Radio QGLLU takes a deep dive into what the queer, gay, and lesbian Latine community is talking about.
I'm Eduardo Archuleta.
I'm Mario J. Novoa.
I'm Lydia Otero, and in today's episode, we're talking to David Gonzales. His preferred pronouns are he, him, and he was born and raised in the Los Angeles area and graduated from UCLA with a BA in biology and a minor in chemistry. It was during this time that he identified as a proud gay Chicano. David volunteered for the Peace Corps and served as an agricultural volunteer and community organizer in rural El Salvador in the late 1970s and early 1980s. He was forced to leave due to the raging Civil War, and in 1981, he co-founded Gay and Lesbian Latinos Unidos, GLLU, and secured its nonprofit status. He also founded and edited the Unidad newsletter and was the group's first president. In 1986, David attended Cal State Northridge and received a science teaching credential in the life and physical sciences. This led him to teach high school biology, chemistry, and physics at John Marshall High School in Silver Lake for over 25 years. David retired from the LA Unified School District in 2019. Hi, David. Why don't you tell us a little bit about yourself? You were born and raised in LA, right?
Hi, Lydia. Yes. I was born in St. Vincent's Hospital in downtown LA, and then immediately my parents bought a house in Alhambra, and we moved there in 1954. It was one of those houses had that covenant where Latinos were not allowed to buy anything, but somehow my mom and dad convinced the neighbors to let us in. I went to Fremont Elementary, Alhambra High School, where I got an excellent public education, which well prepared me for moving out and studying biochemistry at UCLA, where I got my degree.
David, tell us how you met the other people that would go on to form GLLU.
Well, I've always was a volunteer since high school. I volunteered at the local free clinic and college. I volunteered everywhere. And so when I got back from Peace Corps volunteer, right, I still wanted to do that and explore more of my my gay experience, because while I was in Peace Corps, I couldn't be gay. So I really wanted to come back to LA as a force. So I volunteered at the Gay and Lesbian Center, and they needed somebody to help in their jobs department and employment office. And so that's when I started going there, and I'd work a few hours a week. And I ran into the other people who were there already. Jose Ramirez, I believe Rolando was working there already. And there was a few other guys at that time who we just started talking and decided, let's do something. Let's get together. We all had similar ideas.
Would you say that you shared experiences or political goals? That how kind of brought you all together?
Exactly, because we were very progressive. We were very on the side of anti-imperialism. When I came back and shared that I lived in El Salvador, and I saw a lot of the pre-revolutionary killing, we had that in common. And I told him that I did not want to leave that behind. And so if we were going to get together, we definitely would have to be protesting the policies of the U.S. in El Salvador and Central America in general. And so that was my really only political goals that I had before experiencing GLLU. Everybody else had already started their gay activism, I believe.
This is Mario. David, growing up, did you ever imagine that you would be a leader in a gay and lesbian Latine organization?
It's so weird to even consider that I became a leader because I probably was the shyest and most timid person on the planet growing up. I was afraid of my own shadow. Um, I probably said 3 or 4 words to my teachers in high school, and in college the same thing. I didn't get to know any of my professors. Fortunately, I had a good support network of high school friends and college friends where I did not have to be a leader, where I did not have to be speaking, and so it's a complete shock that was involved in the leadership. And I think the main reason is because I was a leader when I was in a Peace Corps. I found my voice when I was down there. And of course, that was critical in me finding my subsequent and my career as a teacher.
This is Lydia. So my understanding is that all the Vatos form GLU, but how did you become GLLU?
We, at the very beginning, we said, how can we leave our Latina sisters out of this, right? We maybe if you think about it, of course, as far as sexuality is concerned, we have nothing in common with lesbians or anything like. But we were Latinos, and we also uh, knew that they were suffering more discrimination than us gay guys, right? We were men, right? And so, but the women not only were gay and Latina, but they were also women. And so everybody was pretty much on board with this feminist idea that we won't get anywhere unless we have our Latina and sisters with us.
This is Eduardo. David, you were elected the first GLU president. What would you say? Well, how did that come about, and what would you say is your fondest memory of being GLU president, the first GLU president?
So many memories, of course. I loved my favorite memory. One of them is when Geneva came in and she wanted to leave, and we go, no, 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 we're not going to let you leave the meeting. We want women here. Another fond memory was, I was kind of a stickler, and probably people didn't like it for organization and rules and all of that. And, starting off a meeting and using Robert's Rules of Order, and it actually worked very nicely. We got a lot done. Quite satisfying that all the effort I put into organizing all of that did pay off. Other fond memories was our first fundraiser at Circus, where it was quite successful. We had such a fun time, and we made some really good money at that thing. So, those are just a few that I can remember now.
And David, what was your into Circus? Like, how did you, this small group, get to have a fundraiser at Circus Disco?
It was really neat. The people that we all seem to attract, you find out that they know important people. And so I'm not sure who had the original connection to Gene LaPietra, the owner of Circus. I wish I could remember who it was, but he was just so willing and supportive of us. I mean, there was not any question or anything like that. So if I could, it definitely wasn't me. Somebody else did it, thank goodness. We were always with committees, and other people had the personality to go out and seek those things.
And I'm just going to follow up with what you said earlier regarding your propensity for rules and using Robert's Rules of Order. And I think that's one of the things that distinguishes GLU from other groups, is that we actually have these minutes that are organized that list the people who attended meetings. And so we have those kinds of records. And I think that's really important when tracking, and future researchers want to learn about GLU, that they have this. Because I was in another group, Lesbians of Color, we never took minutes. And everything was more of a support group and just more talking, but none of those conversations were ever recorded. So I appreciate that you insisted on Robert's Rules of Order and having a secretary that actually took minutes.
Again, it's being, when you're shy and timid, you figure out ways to do things without having to be in front of people. And so, I saw my role at the beginning, I said, I want to make this a long-lasting organization. And I said, and I heard back at the time, all these nonprofits were coming up. I said, I want to be a nonprofit 501(c) status, whatever that was. I said, that sounded good. And so I picked up a book in the bookstore, writing your 501(c) status for dummies, right? And then, and I saw, okay, well, we need to have a constitution. We need to have all these things to go around with it. I also sought out a lawyer who was a volunteer lawyer at the center, and his name is escaping. I wish I could remember because he helped me so much. I'd write all this stuff up, and he'd spend an hour with me correcting it, and I'd come back and then take it back to him, and he'd say, does it change this and that, and so all of that was incorporated in my into this desire to make us a really formal organization. And so you had to have minutes, you had to have Robert's Rules of Order. And I had in this mind, being 501(c)(3, that we could be people, we would attract donors and they would give us thousands of dollars. That never really happened, right? But, it could have happened. I mean, the only thing that it kind of messed up is that you're not allowed to do political things, right? And so you're restricted from doing any kind of politics. But we found a way around that, right? Everybody did it without being in GLLU, right? They did their own things on their own.
Okay, this is Rita again. Now, you were the first president. It's tough being the first president, to be the first of anything, because there's a lot of mistakes you're going to do. Now, Roland Palancia was the second president of GLLU. Did you give him any advice? Because it's tough, like I said, being number one.
I didn't give him much advice because he was always, he'd been part of the whole process, and you can see that he had his ideas and he had his motivation, and he definitely was a pretty dynamic leader to this day, right? I mean, he still does that. And so really to say that I had something important for him to say, he saw everything that was happening. So I can't really say that I gave him any advice.
This is Mario again. David, you alluded to your political life before GLLU. Can you expand on CSPES and your involvement with UFW?
Yeah, again, as I said, I had come back from El Salvador, just really unhappy and upset what was going on down there. That back then there was the 13 families that were controlling the whole country. That was this, I don't know if it was a reality or myth, but whatever. And it was there was the Mano Blanca, which was the right wings, and there was a number of leftist organizations. The one in my town where I lived in eastern El Salvador was the Ligas Populares Frente de, oh my God, I forgot, I forget the name of them. I saw plenty of, I lost friends there. They were killed by the right wing. My teacher friends, the worst friend that I lost was the guy who ran the telegraph office. Back in those days, nobody had telephones. You got to go to the telegraph office. And if I wanted to call the United States, I'd have to say, okay, dial this number. And then a half hour later, the telegraph guy would say, okay, come back to the office. We have the phone call. So we were very close. And one day they just didn't, the right wing just didn't like him and they assassinated him. And so seeing all these things of my friends, I saw bodies along the roadside. And then which you're going to have to help me remember the exact Central American, I don't know. I don't really remember what it stands for, and I think it's still around, isn't it? But and so I was involved with that, and that's like some of the first organizing and marching that I did within a month or two of coming back from El Salvador, and that was my main thing. The UFW, however, I knew all about it, but I didn't really get involved until people in GLLU got involved, where a number of members were already strongly involved in that, and that's where I knew about the issues. I participated in not buying the grapes or the wine or whatever, but I never did any kind of organizing or protesting with the group per se.
So, and then just to go back, CSPES stands for the Committee in Solidarity with the People of El Salvador. Is that
Oh,
correct?
there you go. Thank you, thank you, thank you.
So you had seen quite a bit and experienced a lot for a young person, and getting involved once you got back to the U.S. Uh, Politically, it just seemed like it was a natural progression for you.
Right. And especially I could because also I was ready to, burst out of the closet, and so I needed to do something gay as well. And CSPIS, you know, I didn't feel anything negative about being gay. Not that I was really open to them, but this is, one of the motivations for starting GLLU is that I wanted to combine my recently arrived activism with my and start being active in gay rights as well. And probably a little more selfishly, I wanted to keep my Spanish that I learned down there. I wanted to keep learning Spanish, and so I wanted to hang out with Spanish speakers or people who understood that kind of thing. And so that kind of just coalesced perfectly when I met those guys at the center.
So once the formation of Gay and Lesbian Latinos Unidos was on its way, you launched a newsletter called Unidad. How did you come up with the title?
Well, to me, it was kind of a easy toss from Gay Latinos Unidos, and then it came up with Unidad, and so it kind of fit right into the name of our organization because, of course, we wanted to be united together for these causes.
And what was the Unidad publication modeled after any other publication, anything that you had read previously?
Well, it was really from scratch, and I'd seen other newsletters, I'd seen other gay newspapers because I really was looking at the gay articles and the different, because there was quite a few gay newspapers back in those days, and so I said, okay, well, I wanted to do something like that. I wanted to make columns even though they proved to be really a challenge to put together the newsletter, because I wanted to have different titles on the front, so maybe to coax people in to keep continuing reading or see what other things they were going to have. So it was very messy at the beginning. We spent hours, me and our group, putting it together and getting rub-on letters and typing with whiteout, and there was no computers back then. It was just a regular old typewriter, and happened to be the federal government's typewriter because I did a lot of it as I was a Peace Corps volunteer, a Peace Corps recruiter. I worked for the federal government, so using their IBM typewriters, and quite a challenge to do that. And also we decided we wanted to do it in Spanish as well. And so, I took it on myself to translate a lot of the stuff at the beginning, but that was just so time consuming. But, I figured since, this is my contribution to the group, other people were doing other things, right? And again, I was kind of shy and all of that. So this way I can contribute without having to be out in front of everybody.
For our younger listeners, what you just described, the typewriter and the other methods for printing, it seems like something out of a different world because everybody's used to instant typing and creating content through a computer.
Yeah, paste and clip and paste, and all these different things that nobody can even conceive of anymore. I don't know how we did it actually. It really is kind of remarkable how we would put that together. It'd be so easy to do it now.
Well, it's a testament to, I think, to pushing a different type of media to the public, right? So that it's still reverberating today. Not only are we acknowledging the history of GLLU, but also the publication and all its forms. But Lydia, you were going to say something?
Just that when I joined, David was part, and Luis Jacinto showed me how to put the newsletter together. So they were very generous in sharing that. I mean, they wanted help. So when they they had their collection of stuff to put it together, their rub-off letters, their rulers, their squares. But that was important skill. I remember learning this and saying, this is going to be an important skill that I'm learning. Of course, fast forward 40 years, it's absolutely,
Right.
yeah.
Well, but at least the thing is you get the concept, though. That's the thing, that you can do it, right?
Yeah.
And you just have to learn the new tricks that make it easier. And,
Yeah.
And at that time, it probably was because we had the IBM typewriters and because we
Yeah.
had whiteout, it was much easier. Eventually
Yeah.
the typewriter had a back key where it would automatically put the whiteout on, right? So, wow, that was a great innovation.
Yeah. Yeah.
It sounds cutting edge. David, just one last question. Did the newsletter get recognized in any way by anyone? Did it win any awards?
I wish Lewis was here. Maybe somebody can help me on that. But I remember we were going to get an award, and then I forget the reason that it was revoked because we didn't turn it in on time, or there was a big letter in it. There was a big article about it in Unidad about that. And I remember, I think Lewis was the one who had submitted it, and then we lost it, I guess, eventually. Do you guys remember any of that?
Yeah. And what I remember, it was more political. It wasn't just missing a deadline. It was more that you all didn't do what they expected you to do. Because if you look at the early issues of Unidad, they are very, very political in terms of and critical of the U.S. government. Mm-hmm. So maybe it could be grounded in that. But that's before I came on board, I came on board in '83, and that was about the time you were getting the award.
Actually, I just wanted to add, this is Eduardo. I just wanted to add that you forgot one of the most important thing with the rub-off letters, the blue pencil.
Oh, and the blue pencils yeah, right. Oh.
I remember those because we used to have to do flyers for different committees and rub-off letters, straight lines, blue pencil, make sure everything was lined up and wasn't zigzag.
Right.
Now, you were kind of leaving GLLU around 1986. Can you tell us what was happening? Were you branching off into other directions, or what was going on? Because you were still there when I joined, and I joined in probably about, I think, and I don't remember exactly, but it was late 83 or 84. And you were still involved, but kind of more background involvement when I came on.
Well, around 1984, I had my real job, right? Like everybody did. I was a Peace Corps recruiter in the federal government, and I got sick of that. And I was at a recruiting fair, and next to me was there was a recruiter from LAUSD. Started to talk. They said, "Wait, you have your science major? Wait, you speak Spanish? Would you like to be a teacher?" And I go, "Me, a teacher? The shyest person in school to most timid person on the planet, and I still had those insecurities back then." And I said I needed to change. So around 1984, I went for it, and I started my career, although it was very shaky at the beginning. In 1984, they assigned me to a middle school. I lasted all of 3 weeks. I lost weight. I couldn't eat. I couldn't sleep. Those kids just wrecked me. I did not know how to deal with them. And so I said, okay, I guess I don't want to be a teacher. But I'd already quit my other job. So I said, well, I'm going to substitute because I had an emergency credential and, then look for another job. Well, eventually I substituted in high school. I go, oh, wait, these kids are a lot different. These kids I can handle. And I finally went to many different schools, and I finally was called to sub at Marshall High School. I didn't even know where it was. I was living in Echo Park at the time. And for those of you who don't know, Marshall's really tucked away into the neighborhood. So when I finally got there, I substituted in the Spanish class, and so the teacher had all good students, and I said, okay, this is where I want to go, this is where I want to be. And so I started taking credentialing classes. I started really working on my job, and they finally did hire me as a biology and chemistry teacher. I also had to teach health. I also had to teach one of my chemistry classes in Spanish. I had three different classrooms because we were, overcrowded. So I moved three times a day in all these different classes and but I was loving it. And so all my energy went into teaching, and I just had to put, glue on the back burner. And also, to be honest, I was a little tired. All those meetings on your own time. They were really fun. They were social events, especially, when we put together a newsletter or plan this or that or the other thing. But you want to get on with your life, I guess, or something. And I knew that I was leaving it in excellent hands, with the new people that were just steadily streaming in, right? So, yeah, I went on to begin my career in teaching.
This is Lydia, David, and I have a question about Unidad, Gay and Lesbian Latinos Unidos, the documentary. As we talked about Unidad, the newsletter, and the documentary premiered last year, right? In 2022.
Yes.
And there were a couple screenings. At two of the screenings that I attended, you always sat to my left. So we always sat next to each other. But we talked about our feelings briefly after each of those screenings, but maybe you can share with us how you felt about the Unidad documentary and if it evoked some sort of feelings or from watching it.
It was just such a humbling experience to realize that somebody wanted to know about what we were doing back then. When we were in the middle of doing all of our works in glue, who knew that some future generation is going to look back with favor and with interest. And so I felt, wow, this is really, really a beautiful experience because somebody cares what I did. Somebody cares what all of the rest of us did during that organization. And maybe it was important. To me, it was a tremendous growing experience. It's just like maybe to yet another blossoming. And so it was a personal type of thing. And for people to be interested in it, the documentary, of course, Gregorio just made it so wonderfully that it made us bigger than life. And I really appreciated how that happened. And it seems like it's inspired other people, which, of course, I had that often as a teacher, but that's like automatic thing, right? You're in classroom. That's what's supposed to happen. But it makes it even better. So every time I see it, I get goosebumps. I love the opening where the drone is flying over Silver Lake. I mean, what a beautiful introduction to a documentary. And just talk about it, I get goosebumps too. So that is just right on, right on.
And I just wanted to mention, as the producer of the documentary, it's playing nationally in the next 2 months, again, broadcast wise, and obviously on the PBS streaming app. But it is being watched by many people outside of the LA area.
Yeah, the production. Who would have imagined, and probably Mario would agree, that in 6 months it was all together, ready to go, all packaged up, and
Right.
just. And I remember when Roland first approached me about this, I said, "Yeah, this is I don't. What kind of you're trying to get me to work, aren't you? You're trying to get me to volunteer again to do something, and what do you know?" I said to myself, I didn't tell him that. What do you know about filming a documentary and all of that? But kudos to him, man. He really took the ball on being a producer, and look, along with Mario, you guys did such an excellent job of production.
Oh, I appreciate that. Definitely, Roland has curated the process for us in a way that no one else has on the film making side. And he really, really cares for everybody that was involved in Glue. And I know that there were many other people that we could have interviewed, but to get, even the group that we had for the interviews in the documentary, it really was, it was a process and it was a challenge. And we're glad that we were able to capture some of the voices and present some of the stories, but I'm sure there's plenty more to understand and to acknowledge from all the members and from everybody who was involved and different perspectives. And we can only do so much for 60 minutes, and I think we try to do our best.
And you did.
You did an excellent job, Mario, and the rest of the team.
Thank you. We're inspired by you.
David, thank you so much for joining Radio QGLLU. David Gonzales was the first president of Gay and Lesbian Latinos Unidos. And once again, Mario did announce that it will be National de Unidad documentary, be coming to your neck of the woods, as they say. Thanks for listening. I'm Rita Gonzales.
I'm Lydia Otero.
I'm Eduardo Archuleta.
I'm Mario J. Novoa.
And join us next month for another edition of Radio QGLLU. And we want to hear from you. Tell us what you think of the Out Agenda and Radio QGLLU. Like us on our Facebook page or email us at theoutagenda@gmail.com. I'm Rita Gonzales. Thanks for listening and have a wonderful week. And remember that being out is the first step to being equal. Now stay tuned for This Way Out.